So NPN structure, which requires a minimum of a 5-day residency and some opportunity for community engagement beyond just the work on the stage. And that's not to say that the work on the stage is not extremely valuable in terms of how artists manifest their work, but that the opportunity to go beyond that with various kinds of community engagement work is really important to NPN. Mm. The other aspect of our purpose, which is about convening our members and the artists who have been supported through our programs to address cultural policy issues that affect the way we're able to do our work, is our secondary purpose. So we have worked very hard and used our convening opportunities to bring people together so that we can identify strategies to address some of the issues that face all of us, and therefore have a seat in policy-making tables so that we can influence the direction of policy, cultural policy. We're also, like Roots, and this is explicit in NPN's mission and values, committed to cultural equity and social justice. And so we have a long-standing commitment to maintaining diversity throughout every aspect of our organization. And we're very proud that we grant and leverage almost between $2 and $3 million annually for artists to tour and to create new work.
That is, in today's economic climate, that's very needed funding, I know.
I think it makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. I know it makes a difference. I know a lot of people who are making work through that program, so
good.
Huzzah!
Yes.
So, and speaking of today's economic climate, NPN is turning 25.
Yes.
What do you think it means to turn 25 in today's world?
Well, it certainly means that we have been around for virtually a generation, mm-hmm. and I think that's really something very strong and positive and evidence of the value of what we provide to the community. Mm-hmm. And I mean the national community of artists and individuals. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we have, so at one level, the fact that we have been able to successfully make the transition from being a project of another organization, Dance Theater Workshop, and becoming an independent organization, and continue to prove our value and attract new funding sources and deepen and expand our services. We have an international projects division now, and we've been working for the last 8 years in Latin America and the Caribbean, and are piloting exchanges now in South Korea and Japan, we hope. So I think NPN's strength is in its commitment to the values that it was organized around, and the fact that we've been able to maintain as an alternative structure and not have to capitulate to some other way of working just because it's the way everyone else does it.
So you told us some stories about Roots and perspective you had about struggles or successes. So can you do that for NPN as well? Tell us a time about when NPN had encountered great struggle or success and what was learned.
There have been a number of instances. One was the struggle to make NPN a more diverse organization and more inclusive of different perspectives. And that really started at the very, very first meeting when those of us who were there looked around the table and saw that everybody was white. And we said, this is a great idea for an organization. We're 100% behind the idea, but we need to bring others to the table. And so immediately NPN looked at proactively identifying and inviting to the table with a number of different kinds of strategies, including larger organizations sponsoring smaller organizations or co-presenting with them in order to make the NPN fee structure feasible. And I guess that's another thing of which I'm really proud. NPN has maintained and uses a fixed fee structure that ensures that artists don't lose money when they're touring with our support. And we're the only entity to really declare what is a fair wage for artists working in the touring context. I'm not talking about actors' equity in their approach. I'm not talking about a union approach. Anyway, that's a little bit of a digression. There was a time when the steering committee, which was the governing body or the leading body, the leadership body for NPN before we were an independent organization, had our own board of directors. at one point made a commitment, and for a number of years, the only organizations that we brought into the network were organizations of color. And we saw that as an important strategy to live up to our commitment to be an organization that represented diverse communities around the United States. There was also a time period when we brought in only artist-led organizations in order to strengthen the point of view that artists should be at the table when decisions are made about resources to support their work. I think another thing of which I'm very proud is our ability, as I said, to survive the transition from being a project to being an independent organization. Mm-hmm. And how we have brought now, because we've been independent for a little over, 12 years. It was in 1997, early 1998, when we got our independent 501c3 status. That we have been able to grow and expand and form ourselves into a whole organization and not just a project, not just be a project.
Were there identity issues as that separation
took place? Yes, there was a time when sort of some of the policies that we had in terms of how our subsidies were applied had gotten very muddy, mm-hmm. and the tension between for presenters, the tension between support for their local artist community and bringing in artists from elsewhere exists everywhere. And NPN had gotten a little unfocused for a while in how we were supporting our projects. And so we went through a series of meetings around the country to test the viability of the NPN model and to really clarify our direction. And we really refocused and affirmed that our support is about moving work around the country and the creation of new work. And so we've really built strategies to invest more deeply in work that we have supported through the Creation Fund. And right now we're piloting a new subsidy program called the Fourth Fund, which we anticipate will be able to launch in July of 11, which will invest $15,000 in new resources in Creation Fund projects, essentially doubling our Creation Fund support. So it's been, some of the struggles have been around. I mean, that transition was rough. We had a very visionary leader, and San Wong, who was the first executive director of NPN as an independent organization, did a yeoman's job in sort of wrenching us away from the Dance Theater Workshop umbrella into forming our own corporation, getting our bylaws in shape, setting up our own infrastructure. But it was a rough transition there as we moved from being a project to being independent. Other struggles, being based in New Orleans now, you're sort of out of the culture loop, so we have to really make sure and be almost aggressive to make sure that we're not left out of policy conversations at the national level. So there are things that are a struggle still. And in this climate, sustaining and helping and ensuring that the organizations who are our members have the resources they need in order to be able to move forward. And so a lot of that is the value that being a network is because of the relationships that exist between and among our partner members.
Well, it sounds like you guys are doing it and very well at that.
Thank you.
Yes. Congratulations on celebrating your 25th anniversary and on your upcoming annual meeting in Dallas next week.
Thank you.
And for sharing your time with us.
I'm happy to have done so.
All right. I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks, Rooters, for listening in.